Hello friends, foes, and other watchers on the internet. My name is Matt, and you're watching Hogwash Gaming, and we're continuing building a dungeon in Dungeons & Dragons. Yep, it's Halloween, so we're gonna finish this up. And we're going to be putting in monsters, we're going to be putting in treasures, and a couple things here and there just to add a little more challenge and excitement to this adventure. So first things first, we are actually going to use our notebook this time, and we are going to be putting numbers on the rooms that we drew last time. So the first room will be number 1, the hallway will be number 2, the closet will be number 3, and the inner chamber will be number 4. So how do you choose which monsters to put inside this cabin? Well, that really depends on the narrative that you want to tell. I could have it that the orcs have come in and have taken over the house. So I would probably want to put some orcs in, but that's not what I'm going to do. In the story, what I've got in mind is the giant is dead, and all manner of scavenging creatures are coming to eat away at him. Sounds kind of gross. But it does give us a reason for a lot of little monsters to be inside the house. And that leads us to challenge rating. CR, as it is called. And it's on all of the descriptions of monsters in the monster manual. How CR is calculated is if it's a level 1 monster, then the idea is that 4 level 1 characters can take it down pretty easily. This adventure here will have 2 level 1 characters, so it's going to be a little different. A challenge rating 1 enemy is very possibly taken down by a group of 2 level 1 characters, but it's going to be a lot harder than if you had 4. Thankfully, there are halves and eighths and even 0 CR monsters, but they don't give that much experience, so that's something that you'll want to watch for as well. CR is deceptive when it comes to mathematics. Having 2 things that are CR 1/4 would make you think that it's a 1/2 and should be easy, but numbers don't always translate that well. Mathematics doesn't always work. For instance, a crow, or a raven as it's called in the book, is rated as a challenge 0. Now, if you multiply 0 by any number, it remains 0. But 17 ravens attacking one person, that can get deadly pretty quickly. CR is just giving you an idea of how difficult is this monster. A crow, pretty easy. In this case, I'm going to have some scavengers, so I'm going to go with some ravens. I'm going to put 2 ravens into room 1. So, on my list here, I'm going to write room 1 has 2 ravens. So, I can find the information for ravens in the book, or I can use an app and get information that way. Very simple. I don't have to write it all down. If you really want to write it down, put it on an index card or something like that, then go ahead. In the next room, what I'm going to do is I'm going to up the ante and put Swarm of Ravens. Swarm of Ravens is a challenge 1/4, but it's not that powerful of an enemy, so I think we'll have 2 in here too. So 2 ravens in the first room, and then in the second room, we'll have 2 swarms of ravens. Alright, room 3. Room 3 is a closet, and just for pun's sake, let's put a skeleton in the closet. So we'll flip back a ways and find the skeleton page. Put that number 3, 1 skeleton. And we can buff these monsters if we want. So I'm going to add a poisoned blade to this guy. So poisoned blade. And what being poisoned does is a poisoned creature has disadvantage on attack rolls and ability checks. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add to this skeleton the ability that if he hits, then you have to make a 10 DC Constitution save in order not to get poisoned. If you get poisoned, then you have disadvantage on all your attack rolls until, we'll make the duration 2 minutes. So that's a way that you can boost your monsters in a way that makes it a little more challenging. Room 4. Room 4 is the inner chamber. This is where the giant lies dead. Let's look up some giant animals. We've got a giant vulture. That's a challenge 1. Now, with 2 adventurers, this could be very difficult. Like I said, challenge ratings are basically drawn off of 4 adventurers being able to take them down pretty easily, and we only have 2. So, this giant vulture is going to be a big boss to fight, so I don't really want to throw anything else into this fray unless we have some special things that can go on during this combat that would make it easier to defeat him. So there's only going to be this vulture in there, and he's going to be feeding, and I'll let you describe that. Alright, we're all done putting in the monsters. We've even upgraded one. Now let's take a look at loot. Now, room 1 is the big room. It's the main room. That's where his kitchen is. So we'll put a bit of food rations in here. So, put 3 days of rations. What else would he have in there? Maybe a healing potion. A healing potion's a good thing to have. We'll throw one of those in there. So, simple healing potion and 3 days worth of food. Second room, the hallway. Now we have that big sword lying against the wall. That could work. If you want to take it, that's fine. Now, before I go on to room 2, keep in mind that loot doesn't always have to be treasure. It's up to your players to figure out what they're looking for. Like, for instance, in this big front room, there could have been cooking pots that this one guy was like, well, I don't have a shield. I would like to take a pot lid and use it as a buckler. And it's up to the DM, you, to figure out, will you let that happen? So you don't have to write down everything that's in the room. Your description of the room will open their imagination. Alright, moving on. Room 2. It's a hallway. What kind of stuff do you keep in a hallway? Not much, really. I mean, it's a passage. But we do have this sword that is the trap leaning up against the wall. What I would do is I would have this sword, if the trap is sprung, regardless if it hits you, if it's sprung, then it becomes safe to pick up. If you happen to not spring the trap, then attempting to pick it up will spring it. But other than that, I don't see anything else in this room, so I'm just not going to write loot in here. Number 3. Now, 3 is where the skeleton is. And in a closet, that's where you store stuff. That's where you store some good stuff. But who knows what kind of treasure this giant has? Well, in that case, we have this book. It's wonderful, because in it, it has all of these little charts. And these charts allow you to roll dice to see how much treasure you have in it, and what kinds of treasure you have in it. If you want them to find magic items, you can have them roll to find magic items. Page 145, if you're looking. So you don't have to make up all this stuff. Just say, roll on page 145 of the Dungeon Master's Guide. And there you go. You don't have to write down what every magic thing is. You can leave it up to luck. Room 4, same deal. But here's something that you want to do. With the story, you will want to have some sort of item that goes along with the story. The giant is dead. How do you prove that? Well, you could take a brooch from the giant's cloak, or his knife, or something like that. So keep in mind that loot isn't necessarily something that you have to sell or use to buy things, or something useful like a health potion or a magic item. It can just be a everyday item that's needed for the quest. So when you're designing a dungeon, make sure that you have those kinds of items as well. Things that are important to the story, not necessarily to the well-being or wealth, per se, of the characters. Now I want to finish this dungeon up with something a little fun. Okay, so when they get to this house, they come up to this door, and the door is locked. How do they get in? One way is to bash the door down, which is totally acceptable. You could burn the door down, which is totally acceptable. But there will also be an open window where the birds are getting into this house. And maybe you need a rope with some grappling hooks, or maybe there's a vine growing up. This is where the storytelling becomes part of the adventure. And if you don't have the means to burn down the door, knock down the door, who says you have to use the door? So, sorry, this one was a lot longer than the first two, but you get the idea. This is how you design a dungeon so then it works for your characters. Hopefully it made sense, hopefully you enjoyed it, and until next time, this is Hogwash, over and out.